the Kedu system, right? People taking the imperial examinations to become an official. Problem is, you have too many candidates, not enough positions, right? And guess who ultimately gets upset with society and leads revolutions? It's the Kedu candidates who do not become officials. And so they become angry, and they lead revolutions to overthrow society, right? So the most classic example of the failed Kedu candidate is Hong Xiuquan. Do you guys know who he is? The leader of the Taiping Rebellion, right? Why did he become a Christian? Why did he lead the rebellion? Because he failed the Keju. Okay? So that's the idea of the overproduction of the elite. And he discovered this principle using mathematical modeling of history. Okay? He just compared different societies and trying to figure out why they collapsed. Okay? And what he discovered is, well, it's because of the internal struggle among the different elite groups. Okay? And that's why the Roman Empire collapsed as well. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. What I'm proposing to you is that we can actually go a step further than what Peter Turkin is doing. Because we have something called AI. Okay? Artificial intelligence. And we can harness the power of AI to create real cycle history, which is the ability to not just analyze the past, but to predict the future. Okay? All right. So let's first figure out what AI is. Okay, so first I want us to understand what artificial intelligence is. Because most of you think you know, but you don't actually know, okay? So what is AI? All right, the AI, the technical term is supervised machine learning. Okay? That's the technical term. AI is the popular term, but supervised machine learning is the technical and correct term. Have you guys heard of this term? Supervised machine learning. Yes or no? Have any of you taken computer science? Okay, this is called supervised machine learning. Okay, so what is this? Okay, so in computer programming, you're taught to write the algorithm, right? And then the input. You put in information, it gives you the output. Okay, and this is traditionally how computers work. You write the algorithm, the computer program, you put in information, and then there's an output, right? For example, the algorithm could be like A plus B, okay? So you put in two numbers, 2, you get a 4, okay? That's how computers work, right? Now, supervised machine learning is that I will turn the output into the input, okay? And the reason why I want to do that is that as a human being, I myself may not be able to write the best algorithm. So I want the computer to refine the algorithm for me, to optimize it, using the output, okay? Does that make sense? All right, so let's talk about a very specific example. All right? So let's look at facial recognition technology. All right, you go to the airport, and you scan, and they know who you are, right? You go to a supermarket, you scan your face, and you pay, right? You're like, wait, how does that work? Okay, so how this works is that there's a database, okay, about 1 billion people, like everyone in China. And now what I need to do is figure out how to differentiate the faces of everyone in China in this database. Okay, does that make sense? So what I do is, for the face, I create a mathematical model based on topology. Okay, does that make sense? Topology. So I turn everyone's face into a mathematical model, okay, which looks like something like this, okay? And you're like, I don't know what this is. Okay, you don't need to know what this is. This is like super complicated, okay? But all you need to know is that within this model, there are different equations, okay? So for example, this model is trying to analyze the distance between your eyes, okay? And how big your nose is. All right, does that make sense? All right? And so once I create this mathematical model, I am now able to differentiate everyone in China. Does that make sense? Okay? In fact, this mathematical model is so precise that I can only look at your eyes and I know who you are. Okay? Because what I'm trying to do is match what your model with a model in the database. All right? But what's important to remember is that if you're not in this database, you can't be recognized. Okay? Do you understand? All right. Now, what I will show you is how this model is created. So what happens is this. All right? What I do is I teach the computer how to create this database. So I have input, I have output. And then what I do is I create a working thesis or a working theory of what this model should look like. Okay, does that make sense? All right, so it could be like this. All right? And then what I do is I put faces, okay? And the output should match what's in the database. And if the model returns something that's different, I tell them this is wrong. And what the computer then does is refine this model until it becomes this. Does that make sense? Okay? So what all AI is infinite iteration. Okay, does that make sense? All right? Okay. So the problem with AI is I need to be able to solve 3 things. If I can solve 3 things, then I can create an AI. Okay? The first thing is that I need clear metrics, okay, or clear outputs. Okay, does that make sense? I need outputs that I can define as a mathematical model. Okay, so for example, if I'm an airline, I'm going to use AI to maximize the amount of money I make on a flight, right? Okay, that's my output. How much money can I make out of a flight? I want to have the maximum amount of profit. Okay, that's the first thing I need to solve. Second thing I need to solve then is data. Okay, for input. But the thing about data is that it has to be clean. Okay? Does that make sense? It has to be a clean data. Okay? So for example, if I want to teach this AI to recognize different animals, I need to give it different data sets of different animals. Okay? Does that make sense? I need to label my data. But I can't make an AI that's like, this is the best ice cream in the world. And the reason why is I can't find data on the best ice cream. You understand? Because the best ice cream is subjective. So I cannot turn that into a data set. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. The third thing I need to do is create a working algorithm structure. Do you understand? Okay? Computers can only refine and optimize the algorithm structure. It cannot create it by itself. Okay? So if I'm able to do all 3 things, then I'm able to use AI to optimize what I wanted to optimize. Okay? All right. Any questions so far before I move on? Okay. So what this means is that there are certain problems that I can solve using AI, and there are certain problems I cannot solve using AI. Okay. So what are easy problems that AI can solve, right? Well, for example, facial recognition technology, okay? Also, translation software, right? I can create an optimal translation software. Also, recommendation engines, right? So if you watch a movie on Netflix, it recommends another movie, right? Okay? Now let me ask you this question. Can I ever solve self-driving cars? Can I ever solve self-driving cars? Self-driving cars. Can cars drive by themselves? Yes or no? Yes. Why yes, Sally? Okay, the answer is no. Why is the answer no? Okay, the answer to no is, whatever I do, okay, I cannot solve something called the edge case. The edge case is, if the car is on the road, what could happen that would screw up my AI system? Do you guys know? Why can't self-driving cars be solved? Why can't we have self-driving cars on the roads? What's an edge case? What is a thing that I can never solve? What is it? Excuse me?
That they cannot solve issues that's not planned.
Yeah, and what is not planned? They can plan for traffic. What can they not plan for? And then this is why we'll never have self-driving cars. They can plan for accidents. What can they not plan for? Easily plan for traffic rules. What can they not plan for? Okay, guys. The edge case with self-driving cars is if I, as a human being, intentionally want to crash into that car. Do you understand? Does that make sense to you guys? Every other situation I can plan for. But in a situation where I'm the human being, and I don't like self-driving cars because I'm a taxi driver, and it's stealing my job, right? It's stealing my livelihood, and I want to crash in that car, there's no way for that AI to avoid the accident. Does that make sense? Okay?
Unless it's self-aware.
Listen. AI is a scam, okay? It does not exist. What exists is supervised machine learning, okay? What is supervised machine learning? What I just told you, okay? That's it. That's the extent of our technology. It does not have self-awareness. It can only do what the algorithm tells it to do. And there's no way you can design an algorithm that plans for and prevents a human being who intentionally wants to crash into you, okay? Does that make sense? All right? So AI, in other words, is an extremely limited tool, okay? So you think about actual applications of AI, it's very limited. You also look at self-driving cars. Now, there are cars that have self-driving features, but they are not 100% self-driving. Okay? Does that make sense? In fact, they tell you, don't rely on the autopilot, okay? It's there to help you, but don't sleep in the car, okay? Right? Because they don't have an AI system in place to prevent people from crashing into them, okay? Does that make sense? All right. So now that we know what AI is, let's talk about how we can use AI to predict the future, okay? Okay? All right. So basically, what you need to do is three things, right? You need to be clear about the output. You need to have clean data. And you need to have a working algorithm, okay? Does that make sense? And so that's what I've been doing this semester, okay? So for example, remember my predictions. The Israel lobby, Saudi Arabia, and the American empire, basically the need to protect the petrodollar, will force America to go to war with Iran, okay? These are the push factors. The problem is that there are no force to counteract this, okay? So for example, the military will be for this because they have shock and awe, and they are very confident they can win this war, okay? Iran itself wants this war because it wants revenge against America,